Now back to the show. This is The Law Show on CL 650.
And welcome back to The Law Show. We're talking about family law, the breakdown of relationships, and joining us in studio, David Halkett. He's a partner at McQuarrie Hunter, and Sarah Morse, an associate at McQuarrie Hunter. And we're thrilled that you're here. And I joked a little bit about the cat, but when relationships break down and divorces happen, pets get stuck in the middle. You fight over probably the money, the kids, and pets, right?
Yep.
So, can you give us a quick story on how a cat got in the mix?
I think it was Fluffy, actually.
Are you kidding?
No. I kid you not. This had to be written right into a separation agreement, and you actually see this a lot because obviously it's a very emotional subject, and obviously there are situations where pets are actually shared, and one party comes and takes the pet out for a walk or has the pet 2 days a week and things like that. But typically, one person will take the pet, knowing full well the other party wants the pet, and uses poor Fluffy the cat as a bargaining chip. And I've actually had a file where I've had to write that into an agreement, and the client actually gave up lump sum spousal support in lieu of the cat.
So people are willing to give up a good amount of money to get the family pet.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And the interesting thing with pets is that there's no separate area of our act that deals with pets. When they redid the statute, they just didn't add in your pets because they're just considered chattels. So they're no different than an RSP or your bookshelf or anything, except of course they're living beings that you love.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting thing that you have to deal with when you're dealing with them because there's additional emotional aspect to that. We talked earlier today about how sometimes someone may want something on the list just because the other party wants it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, for the animal, it's even more because you love the animal too. Of course, you love your dog or your cat or whatever animal it is, but you also know the other one does equally. And so what better way, if you can't take the kids away from them because you're going to even them, it's going to be divided equally, the best way to get your spouse from some people's point of view is I'll get them on the animal.
So when you have somebody come in from the beginning of talking about a divorce to when it actually happens, do they soften? Are they really angry at first, and I'm going to take the kids, and I'm going to take the dog, and I'm going to take them for everything I can? And then as you get closer to the date, people soften?
They tend to. I have some cases where they're just as angry a year and a half later at trial as they are when they first come in to see me. But generally, you're right, Zach, they soften over time, and they realize that once you get over the initial hurt and loss, it's like we're going to have to live with each other, if there's children, for a long time.
Yeah.
And so it's just not worth the fight. So it does even up. Often it can go both ways, but usually if there's a new partner that's gotten involved, it eases things because especially if you were left for someone else.
Yeah, that's the ultimate burn, right?
Exactly. So then once you've got someone new, that can even up. Although the downside of that sometimes is the new partner says you're giving up too much and they kind of like are the puppeteer behind. So, people that don't do our area of law, other lawyers who don't practice family law, don't realize all the other additional emotional aspects that we have.
Absolutely.
It's a big holding job, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think our job is half counselor, sort of therapist. Clients often will just call us to vent, and it makes them feel better. And I think that's one of the best parts of our job is we're helping someone through a really difficult time and hopefully getting them into a better place at the end of all of it.
So not to be totally cynical, but sometimes the softening comes also when they see how much they've paid before and how much it would go down the road as well. Like when they know how much the trial is.
Calling you and venting is an expensive way to vent.
Exactly.
It is. And until people start realizing that, the emotion then does start to sort of, they realize this is what it's going to cost me if I really want to keep up the anger and an unreasonable position or whatever the case may be. And it really does help mellow people over time.
Sarah and I often get that we want you to be really aggressive. All right, we can be really aggressive. And then they get their first, account from the aggressiveness. And it's like, oh, well, maybe we don't have to be as harsh. and that's realistic. You don't realize how much things cost. Like Sarah's hourly rate, mine, it adds up quickly.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. All right, so back to the pensions, and so what is the formula for dividing a pension? How is it done?
The general formula in British Columbia for our pensions is that you get 1/2 of the contributions that were made during the relationship. There's a formula, it's half of A divided by B, which it simply means that if you worked 15 years in total and you were together for 8 of those years, you get 1/2 of 8 over 15. The general person works 35 years for a pension. So a teacher, say 35 years, and you were married for 25 of them, you get 1/2 of 25 over 35. So that works out to 45% of the pension or 40%. And then when the other person is out, the recipient of the pension is eligible to get the pension paid, you get your portion paid directly to you.
Right, so you don't have to say, where's my money every month? It just gets deposited.
Exactly.
So those are those credits you talked about earlier. The pension knows that this is being divided between two people.
Yeah, once you've got an order or an agreement and it's registered with the pension office, they divide it at source and you become what they call a limited member of the pension. And then the money just comes to you. And they'll give you other options. You could take a lump sum to be locked in your own RSP if you want to manage it yourself or whatever. But most people just say, I'll take the monthly stipend that they're going to pay me. And it may be, say the person was getting $5,000 a month, you may get $2,500 just paid to you just on a monthly basis.
Now, from having you on the show before, Sarah, I understand that women are much more reluctant to give up their pension, right? Is there a gender line there?
I don't know.
It is for me.
I think there probably is, and I don't know if that's partially to do with this sort of paradigm shift with, women working longer. I mean, women having just as fulsome careers as men now, and they've worked hard for their pensions. And I think there's a sort of an aspect of pride in there as well.
I think it's security as much as anything, that's my pension. I earned it and I want it. At least in my experience anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. I would agree. I would absolutely agree with that.
And I remember I was at a settlement meeting and the wife, she was the one with the pension. She had a nice government pension and she goes, well, why should he get any of my pension? I earned it. And so I used some of Sarah's nice mediation skills, turned it on them and said, well, what if he had earned the pension? Would you be saying the same thing? And there's this blank look on his face. Well, of course, I was his wife. I'd want a division. It's like, but you could tell that she realized at that point that...
It was painted into a corner.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so, I think a lot... My experience, and as terribly sexist as this sounds, is women have always wanted, in my 25 years, they want the security. They like their house.
Thing too,
exactly.
I think.
The nesting in the house. The house was ours. That's where I raised my children. I want to keep it. I'll sell it when I have to. And the pension is a nice security for the future. When you're 55, 60, you're getting money on a monthly basis.
I think maybe it comes back to traditionally, and that's not the case so much today, that men have made more money than women.
Yep.
So if you divorce at 50, a man can make more money over his prime earning years than women traditionally. And that's not all the case now. I mean, Sarah, you're a lawyer. I mean, lawyers can make good living, but that's changing now.
Yep.
But I think that's maybe part of it. Women think, well, I want that nest egg because I might not be able to have somebody in my life that makes the kind of money that the ex did.
Yeah. What if I'm sick? I need that money coming in. I can't work. There's a lot of things like that.
Yeah. I think women tend to sort of plan more long term as opposed to men, just generally.
Mm-hmm. Men just want the problem to go away.
Exactly.
Instant gratification.
Yeah, well, but let's talk about that for a moment. What are the main differences in gender when they come around the divorce? What are the tax that men choose versus women?
Well, for me, and I'll let Sarah, because she has the mediation training a bit more than me, but when I act for male clients, often we'll go to a settlement meeting, and the first thing on their mind they'll say to me when they go in is, how much do I have to pay her for her to leave? Right? It's like a general. Whereas when I'm dealing with female clients, they want to deal with the spousal, the child, all these other issues. They want to be heard. And sometimes that's their first forum to really set out what their problems were and where they're coming from. Whereas the guys just want to get in, get it over with, and leave. What about you, Sarah?
I would agree with that. And I think one of the
so
biggest...
just to jump in, is it because it's just money? Are men more focused on the money?
I think they want it over with. They want it wrapped up, done, and then they know where they can just move on with their lives.
Okay, Sarah, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, that's fine. And I think that's very true. I think, and I'm not saying this is generalization, but a lot of times women tend to think things through and want to
analyze it,
analyze it. And so it's a longer process. But having said that, women are typically, the first thing I find they're concerned about is the children. And obviously that's a lot more complex than just splitting assets. And and David can probably attest this too. The first thing my female clients say is, well, I want the kids, and I only want him to have the kids this many days a week. They're my kids. So there's still, depending on the age of the kids though, that plays into it, but there's still very much they're my kids. I want to know that the kids are going to be okay. And that's their focus more than the money initially.
And it's also cultural in that even though it's changed and, three of us are pretty much the same generation. It's different than when we were young, our moms were at home, etc. There's still the feeling among some that if the children are equal with the husband or more with him, then people are going to think I'm a bad mom. So if they're with me, then I must be a good mom.
Or when they're young, there's that connection where the mom's like, well, I've been home with these these kids.
Women have children. Men don't have children. So there's that ultimate connection that mothers have that men don't, right?
Absolutely. But I was raised by a single father.
Me too.
And so I've seen the other side of it. And I think that it's so valuable for kids to have that equal time with both parents as long as there are no parenting concerns. And, I think that's fair to everyone.
It's different than it used to be, for sure.
Very much so.
All right. We talked about a bunch of stuff today, gender, cats, pensions, getting to know you guys. Last 30 seconds on pensions. What's your advice to someone listening today?
My advice is always don't give up your interest in the pension unless it's really in your best interest, because you can't replace the income stream down the road. Your asset could diminish. It could, your house could collapse, whatever. Prices could bubble. The pension is going to be there, especially if it's a government pension.
All right. Good advice. Free advice. There you go. For listening to The Law Show. That's the voice of David Halkett, partner at McQuarrie Hunter, and Sarah Morse, associate at McQuarrie Hunter on The Law Show. That's our time for this go-round. I'm Zach Spencer. We'll speak to you next time.